Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raad Life. Today, I've got a friend of the show. She's been on a couple of times before when she first dipped her toe in the area of local politics. A friend of mine, Farrah Khan, who is currently a sitting city council member in the city of Irvine. And like I said, she's been on the show a number of times. Starting off when she started running, which I asked her the question then, and I will ask her the question again. Farrah, remember when I asked you, why are you running? Like so many years ago, right? Like she's smiling, she's cracking up. Yeah. So I'm going to start off with that. So first of all, welcome to the show. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
We'll get into COVID and all that good stuff. But I want to really start off with this, right? Like, why did you run back then? Because I said you're a sitting city council member in Irvine, and you're now upping the game. You're now running for mayor. So why did you run to begin with? Do you still feel the same way? Why are you running for mayor? Take it away. Take it away.
Right. So I think back in 2018 when I ran for city council, it was running because I felt that the council at the time didn't represent the community. They weren't looking out for the best interests of the community. They were fighting amongst themselves, right, and not very responsive. And this time around, I think some of those things still are there. We definitely want to have a mayor that is responsive and doesn't attack people when people have differing views, doesn't block people, actually looks out for the community's betterment. And not only that, but has like a vision for the future. I mean, you know, we can talk about our past accolades for days, but what are we doing for the future of our city? What kind of plans do we have? Are we looking at new technology? All of these things need to come into play as we kind of navigate our way through this pandemic and also this economic crisis.
So City of Irvine is a unique city in Orange County, right? It's got its own, very much its own character. From everything from land holdings to large corporations to large businesses. It's a pretty interesting. It's not. A lot of Orange County could be almost called, to a greater extent, what do they call them? Bedroom communities. Like there, a lot of them are like that. Irvine has basically really amped it up as far as attracting new business, high density housing, all the stuff that has been taking place in the recent years. So, what is it that you? Because I'm hearing the same thing. Like at some point when you decided to throw your head in the ring, that there was not representative of the community. And I think it's important for people that don't have a sense of Irvine to understand the diversity maybe that is present in Irvine. So take a minute and talk about, because I don't think it's gotten any less. If anything, it's gotten more diverse, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you look at our city, approximately 45% of the population is API, which is Asian Pacific Islander. And that's from the 2010 census, I believe.
Right.
When the 2020 census comes out, I think we're going to see that go up a lot more. But you look at the age differences. We've got younger families here, but we've got a whole bunch of seniors as well. So what are we doing for the two that are there? We've got a large student population in our city because of
your university.
Concordia. And so we want to make sure that we are taking care of all of those different diverse groups of people and looking out for what they want in the city.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do want to talk a little bit about the aging nature of not only Irvine but Orange County as a whole, because it's something that I usually want to talk about with people that are either running for the first time or that are in office, because that particular issue, and again, I don't want to get distracted from the beginning of this conversation, but that particular issue is more and more a looming issue for us as a county, and it doesn't seem like we're really addressing it well. So let's go back to that, to the sort of the growth mindset that Irvine has had, okay, and why it has done things like high density housing when there has been kind of like a pushback against that from some of the more bedroom communities in the area. You've been on city council now for what, 2 years?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. What have you seen from the prospect? Because it's one thing when you're running, right, versus when you're sitting in the chair.
Right.
So share with me a little bit of that, because I think it's one of the stories that doesn't get told. You don't really get to get a chance to ask somebody, okay, when you're standing at the podium and talking to the dais, it's one thing. When you're actually sitting in the chair. So share with us a little bit of that, if you don't mind.
I mean, I think when you're running as a candidate without having experience of being elected, you have these grand ideas that you want to accomplish. And not only that, but you want to fight for all the things that are good. And then when you get there, you realize, okay, there's some stuff that's going on that's beyond your control. Like when it comes to our density and our building in the city, that's not 100% in our control. The state actually requires us to build to a certain capacity. And we have to meet that capacity in order to get the state funds that come to our local city here. And so, when people are like, oh, you're building too much. And I'm like, all right, let me show you the RENA numbers that just came out. This is what the state is expecting us to build.
Well, you have the same thing with the homeless issue. There's things that are in place that it's one thing when you're not saddled by the chair, if you will, right? When you're standing at the podium, and I know you've been community engaged and involved prior to being on city council. So it's one thing, and thank you for sharing that, because I completely agree, but it doesn't get told enough. And so we basically lambast elected officials from the filter that all the things are possible at the dais, but things like, everything from Brown Act limitations to master plan and vision statements that have already been approved and basically authorized by vote or whatever it may have been, a ballot measure, whatever it is. Those are all things that you guys now have to basically live by and operate within the realm of, creatively maybe finding ways to deal with things that you still want to achieve. But it doesn't get told. And so I really appreciate saying that. And then you're grinning because it's like you realize that when you're standing at the podium, it's different from being in the
totally different. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. Like, all the things that we talk about. You talked about homelessness. There's, you're dealing with the county and the state with housing. You're dealing with the state on so many levels. Not only that, but even with COVID, I mean, there's certain requirements that we have to meet in order to get the funding from the state related to COVID grants. And so all of this happens while you're sitting there and people are pointing, fingers. And I've done the same. I pointed fingers at elected officials.
It's very easy. It's very easy. Let's just say very easy. It's much easier to be standing there and doing that and then putting it on somebody else's lap to take care of, right? Versus the actual doing. And I'm only pointing that out because we tend to be very divided, and sometimes that division is from this misplaced sense of what is achievable. And I think if we were to be a little bit more reality-based, we realize that, yes, we may disagree on what we're trying to achieve. We may even disagree, in terms of principle of what is appropriate, what is not. But it's not the easy job that people think it is, I think, right? Even if you're running, I think sometimes, unless you've been there before, you don't really realize. And you're making alliances, and you're making, you're building those bridges, and sometimes those bridges work out on a particular issue, then you find yourself on an opposing side on another issue.
Right. Yeah. And I think what's important to understand is also that when we get into office, like certain development plans that have been signed on by previous councils are still in effect. So, people want you to go in and say, okay, stop this developer from doing this. And I've had to explain to them, hey, there's an agreement in place. I can't touch it. So,
I mean, Farrah, can't you just rip up the agreement, please? Just rip up the agreement so that I can then just to start a get new agreement. I mean, who cares, right? No, you can't do that.
No, and I don't think I look good in orange either, so I'm not going there.
That's exactly my point. Okay, so I'm sorry for a little bit dramatic effect, but it seemed appropriate. So, and I have a reason why I'm asking this, because, we are it's an interesting election year for sure, as just a general election all around. And there's always sentiments that basically permeate. As much as city council is not supposed to be a partisan situation, it is very fraught with that always. The thing about why I was asking you is because, with that being said, I tend to agree with you that some people are sitting in positions of power and they're not acting in a manner that's reflecting this reality, right? And so they're basically maybe taking their own personal positions on things and now basically amplifying them. And sometimes that is not in the best interest of the community. It's not in the best interest of finding a medium or a point of coming together. Like when you basically that dug in, your heels are in, and this is where I stand, and that's the way it is. It doesn't make for a consensus. It doesn't make for that sort of finding things that we could agree on versus divisiveness, and it's killing us. The divisiveness is killing us.
It is, especially when we take local issues and turn them into political ones, or polarize them from one party to another. You know, we're doing a disservice to the entire community.
Right.
Take, for instance, this whole mask issue. It's not a Republican versus Democrat issue. It's a mask, it's a health and safety issue.
What mask issue? What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Protect others. There you go. And it's not that difficult to do, but the fight has become very polarized.
Yeah.
And the same thing, you know, recently we had an issue where the LGBTQ community came out and they were trying to educate my council colleagues on issues that they were facing in the city. And some of the things that came up were, you know, how they're being treated, or what happens when they call the police and things like that. So, you know, for me, right away, I held a roundtable discussion with our LGBTQ community members and organizations in the city, brought in our Irvine PD to have a conversation about creating a liaison from the PD. Not only that, but updating our website for their resources. And at the end of the day, proclaiming June as Pride Month and flying the Pride flag. Yeah. I mean, this doesn't take away anything from anyone, but if it helps a community member feel like they are included in this community, right, then what's the harm in doing so?
Well, and
to have leadership that didn't even want to do that.
Yeah, no, I think there's unfortunately the politicizing of these positions, and people basically put themselves in a corner. And once they put themselves in that corner, then they have eliminated their ability to say, you know what, I believe this way, but I also can see it this way. Like it's absolutes. It has become an issue of positions of absolutes, black and white. That doesn't really work, not in real life. We all know this, right? And so we're trying to garner maybe, you know, carry favor with certain groups that are noisy and loud. You know, I mean, this mask issue is almost, it's amazing. If you look at the energy and effort being put in the anti-mask side of things, which are basically, I mean, people may disagree with me. I think the anti-mask movement is basically anti-vaxxers in anti-mask clothing, to be honest. So it's a freedom thing and it's whatever. Yeah, but you know, first of all, there's no such thing as freedoms and rights without responsibility. The two things are not separated. Like you cannot just decide I'm going to go out in the back of my own backyard and take my actual licensed AK-47 and fire it in the air and basically not care where the bullets are going to come down. Right. You know, I cannot basically water the heck out of my lawn till it turns into a slip and slide. And basically the water goes into my neighbor's yard and undermines their foundations. You cannot do that. There's no rights without responsibilities.
We have limitations.
Yeah, I mean, there's just, you know, forget about common courtesy. Forget about, you know, taking into consideration other people. But this whole anti-mask thing is so politicized, it's stupid. And unfortunately, there are people that are dying.
Yes.
And whether you believe that this is, you know, the death rate is somehow, I don't know how people even accept this in their own brain, like, so the death rate is acceptable, you know, collateral damage somehow. Yeah, you tell that to the person who lost that mother or father or grandmother.
Exactly. And don't even look at it as percentages. That kills me because, you know, people will say, oh, we're at, you know, so-and-so percentage or 1%. And is that so bad? Well, convert that into numbers. And like you said, turn those numbers into individual living that had family members that, right, you know, were part of the society that are no longer here. Right. How do you quantitate that?
You know, my favorite one, Farrah, is, well, you know, more people die from the flu. And I'm like, yes, and we should be very ashamed of the fact that many people die from the flu. At this point, exactly, we should actually not have so many people die from the flu.
Deaths from flu, right?
So, anyway, and then so you guys, you know, it's funny. What is it? Is it because Irvine is such a focal point as an economic engine, which it really is in Orange County, that when things come up like the, you know, the Pride flying the Pride flag, or, you know, mandating masks, and I got to give it to you guys. You guys were really ahead of that as far as doing a mask mandate, and then basically also enforcing, which was the other thing, because the county whether the county likes hearing this or not, the county was lacking in that capacity. So why do you think it is? Is it that the microscope is sort of focused on you guys, that you get a lot of kind of attention that way?
No, even with the mask mandate, I remember introducing that and wanting it to be citywide in the beginning. That was my motion. And our current mayor didn't feel comfortable mandating it throughout the city. So the first version of our mandate was that, only when you are going into a place of business or a store or something like that, then you are required to wear a mask, and the enforcement fell on the businesses. So if the businesses didn't enforce
which I thought was very unfair. That was really unfair. They were already suffering, they're already struggling, and now you're asking them to police these people that are feeling very impassioned about doing exactly the opposite.
Exactly. And we saw the backfire with that was customers going in and yelling and screaming at the employees, and that was unfair. And so the second version of our mandate was across the board throughout the city, and it was individuals and businesses. So basically it was on everyone to do their job. And so, again,
So that's interesting, Farrah. Like the first one didn't pass, and then the second one passed, but it seems to me like the second one
passed too. It passed, but only enforcement was on the business side, and the second one actually did it across the board.
So was there in the course of conversation, because I did not see that discussion or deliberation, but in the course of the deliberation, did you feel that the first one maybe was people were a little bit more hesitant, but then the second one people were more on board?
I think so, because by then the state had actually come in hard and said that they wanted everyone wearing a mask. And so I think that kind of opened that door up a little bit more for us. And then we had more data showing that people not wearing masks were affecting the count going up. And so we had a little more leverage there.
So what do you think the current condition, because this is a while ago, this is when the state basically, maybe was it like last month that the state basically mandated that this is just the way it's going to be?
Right.
What is the sentiment now from people that may have been resistant to it before, now that is in place? Do they feel now that maybe, it's a good thing they changed their mind, maybe that there is actually a benefit? What do you think?
It varies. We haven't heard too much from those that didn't want to wear the mask, but we are definitely hearing more from those that are still concerned. I get emails all the time talking about, I went on a walk by the lake and there were people without masks on for walking, or, I was walking down my block in the evening and there were people walking without a mask. So people are a little more aware and they're really asking us to do a little more. So, just this week, I sent out a letter to all the HOAs in our city, asking them, to share in their newsletter that if you're going out for a walk and you know that you might come in contact with someone, just have a mask handy. If there's no one around, you don't have to wear it, but as soon as you come across someone, do yourself and the other person a favor and put it on.
It really is, at the end of the day, an issue of common courtesy. It really is. It really is. And whether you, and as far as from the business perspective, give a shout out to the Orange County Business Council for being a part of the solution in this, and Lucy Dunn there, is that, it's really, this is a business-friendly agency that is really a power player in Orange County, and she realized, and the agency realized, that there's a direct connection between good health and good business. And if you are a safe place that people can consider a safe place, whether you accept that their fear is legitimate or baseless, it doesn't matter. That customer, in order to draw them into your business, you have to give them a sense of safety of that business. And putting on a mask visually represents, I care enough about you to basically make my business safe for you to come and spend your money. That's just smart business. And so the resistance to it makes no sense to me, even on that side. You want the businesses to open and reopen and stay open, then if this is what it takes, why not do it for whatever duration of time? It's not going to be forever.
Well, that's what I hear the most. It's like, what are we doing to get back, our economy and get back to normal? Well, if you want to get back to normal, if you want us to open up our businesses, and you want businesses to thrive, as a small business owner, I feel it. And so if it's the least that you could do is put a mask on and do that while you're moving about, then just do it, because that'll help us move forward. In the state, we saw that we were moving a little rapidly, and we
Yeah.
thought we were doing well, and then we had to shift backwards.
Yeah.
That's something we don't want to do, because that
Yeah.
hurts, especially our small businesses the most. I mean, you spend so much money putting up plexiglass, getting PPE for your employees. You're up and ready to go. You think you're going to start, making income, and the next thing you know, you're shut down again. That
Right.
is unfair.
Right. And we do need, I mean, let's just be honest, we do need larger, more comprehensive, sustainable solutions. And I think those will come. I mean, we forget that this is a major, challenge that we have faced, and it's only been like almost 6 months. But there's already innovative ways and things that are happening that are more sustainable. And I think what will come out of it is probably healthier environments. I've been calling it environmental IQ. Like what's the environmental interior indoor quality that you have? Because if you look at it from a prospect of just like we do like with ADA, or just like we do things of safety, right?
Right.
If you look at it from that perspective, then you will come up with things that are more than just duct tape and plexiglass and surgical masks. Like all these surgical masks, all this paper product that is ending up in the landfills, right? Also, I mean, that's another impact that's going to come out of this. So none of us, I think, are looking at this as being this is the way our lives are going to continue to be. But definitely, there's changes in everything that we are going to be tackling in the future that will come out of this. I mean. So what is the race look like this year? I mean, how's it been? Last time you ran, you took a lot of heat from different people, and I think you challenged a lot of people's sort of sense of normalcy. Then, now you're in a situation where there's a new normal, not a new,
Right.
So what has it been like?
So, I mean, last time it was interesting because there were 12 candidates running for 2 seats, and I ended up coming in first, the highest vote getter out of all 12.
Yeah.
And I think it was based on just constant communication with the public, letting them know that I was not only listening to them, but willing to take in what they were saying. The same thing applies this time. It's like, for me, everyone talks about, this pandemic kind of slowed things down. I don't think it slowed anything down. I think I'm working harder than ever. I get so many resident contact emails or phone calls on a daily basis with problems from either it's rental issues, or it's, their allergies are they want to build something while this slowdown is happening. And it's constant, and I feel proud that they're able to reach out to me, because at least they know that I'll be responsive and work on whatever issue it is that they have. But the most important thing right now is, what are we doing today? What are the actions that we're taking today to make sure that we're not only going to come out of this pandemic successfully, but also be a stable and economically stable city that's going to come out of this pandemic. We can't just sit back and kind of ride this wave and wait for the state to put out orders and then say, okay, now that the state is doing this, let's do this. We have to be a little more proactive in our actions and make sure that we're doing everything that we can to not only take care of our residents during this time and afterwards, but also our businesses. Keeping in touch with them. I make phone calls to our local businesses all the time. I'm checking in on them if they need anything. And I think that's what's important right now. It's not, we can't just sit back and kind of let people tell us which way we should be going. We need to be the leaders to direct which way we're going to go.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the, all news is local news, all things that are on the local level, really, that's where the rubber meets the road. I mean, as you get further away from it, and it seems to be more and more in the more recent years that really where the action, where the work to be done is, on the grassroots level is really local, right? And so City Council is right there in the midst of all of that. It seems to me sometimes when I think about this relevant to Orange County, or places maybe that are like Orange County, where you've had a sort of a stable way of doing certain things, whatever, that with COVID, it is challenging a lot of stuff. It is pushing, people's sensibilities beyond maybe where their comfort level is. And I think it's especially noteworthy when you look at the county in terms of the composition, in terms of an age demographic, because human beings are resistant to change to begin with. I think as you get older, for a combination of reasons, I've done this the way that I've done this for the last 40 years, I really don't want my environment to change because that challenges me and makes me stressed out, whatever reason it may be, right? But we have a county that, according to Steve Moyer from AgeWell, when I had him on the show, he said that about 1 in 5, so 20% of our population will hit 65 or older by 2025, right? Now, I don't know what the math is for Orange County, but that's a lot of numbers. I mean, at the very least, a couple of thousand, 100,000 people that are going to be in that category, and we're not getting younger, right? We're not getting any less affluent or expensive, so we're losing a lot of people maybe they can't afford. Now, you guys in Irvine have done, a good job with the high density housing and offering a bunch of housing opportunities more so than maybe that other cities are around. But we have this sort of outflight of young professionals that can't afford to live here. And so they have to go somewhere else where they, in the past, it used to be the older people that couldn't afford and they would leave and go to the desert. Now it's like a reverse flow, right? So that impacts, everything from sales taxes to payroll taxes. Property values are not necessarily appreciating in terms of property taxes because people are holding on to them longer. People are older. That's, I would think, puts more additional pressure on you guys in City Council to provide additional services that are almost assumed that people have the right to, as far as senior services and senior support services, right? Right. But now the number of the people that are the recipients is likely to increase exponentially. So that is part of the dynamic that I think is going on. And to be honest with you, Farrah, I mean, you guys, I know you have a new senior center, or a relatively new senior center, and you have an active committee that does this. But this is one of those things that really scares the living daylights out of me as an Orange County resident, because I feel like we are so unprepared for that.
Right now in our city, and I think we've looked at those reports, and for the past 2 years have been working in that direction as well. Not only have we increased our senior centers, but our senior programming. And then we have a very active senior council that advises the city council members on things that are coming up. And not only that, but then when you look at the housing situation, we're seeing a lot more of our seniors not able to leave their, single family home that accommodated them and their kids. Right. Because either it's too expensive for them to move out, or there's no opportunity for them to move out. They want to stay in Irvine. We really need to look at, are we providing enough housing at various levels, whether it's apartments, condos, or single family homes geared towards the senior population, because we need them to have that movement in order to open that inventory of homes for the younger families that are coming in.
Right, especially when a lot of them are holding on to those homes that are, they have a good amount of equity in at this point. Right. And they're holding on to it for a reverse mortgage because that's the way they're looking at possibly paying for their later years. And that's the only way they can afford it. I mean, I'm working on a dementia care project right now in Stanton. It's the largest project I think going on in Stanton right now. It's like 66 rooms, 122 bed memory care, 3-story, ground up, right? 80,000 square foot building. The minimum charge for a person to be in there is $5,000 a month. That means you need to have $60,000 a year to basically afford that. And that is not with your medical insurance, any additional medical costs. So we really have a policy issue, I think, or something that requires a policy solution in Orange County when it comes to this. Otherwise, 2025 is not that far away. It's 4 years from now.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I remember when my dad, because he had dementia, and we had to place him in one of those care facilities, and the cost there was $7,000 a month. This is the Bay Area.
Well, that was the Bay Area. I bet you if you looked at that same place right now, easily 10 to 12 starting. And again, like I'm using Stanton, I'm not picking on Stanton, but there are areas that are a little bit more maybe affordable. If that's the case, I guarantee you that if we go closer to the coast, we're looking at anywhere between 10 and higher a month, right? So it's
not only that, but you look at the facility itself. I mean, you want the best for your parents, so you want everything that's included, and the more you want, the higher it gets. And then you look at the ones that are on the lower side, and you walk in there, and you're like, "What is this?" I would not even. I can't even imagine putting my parent there.
Well, you already feel guilty enough about the fact that you're not caring for them yourself, but your whole life has, you need to continue to have a balance. And so, yes, it's very true. And the reason why I keep saying it is a policy situation, because we don't, for the longest time, way back in the day, companies, as part of the benefits package, offered long-term care insurance for their employees. That stopped a long time ago. So unless you were smart enough to get long-term care insurance after, you know, you got your life insurance and your car insurance and your home insurance and all this stuff, you still added a layer of long-term care insurance. You are basically, you know, excuse my French, SOL. And so there needs to be some leadership on the matter beyond, oh, well, you know, like family assisted ministries will help or Meals on Wheels will help. Because again, the numbers are exponentially growing. And you guys are a town and you know, the community that's going to be affected by it. Other ones maybe have a little bit of an more even older.
It would be nice if our federal government would focus on issues like this rather than the post office right now. Because, you know, if we were focusing on our senior population and building policies to help them before we reach 2025, we might have something in place where we have services and housing available that is at a cost where that's you know, affordable.
Well, especially when those seniors are counting on that postal service too, in order to basically receive a lot of their medication and their prescriptions. Yeah. Right. Especially during a period like this, where everything is telemedicine and everything is even more so basically. Yeah. I mean, it is interesting how
right now
our priorities. Yeah. We have our priorities messed up. Yeah. So what do you think? I mean, I don't know how the responsibilities actually divide in terms of the mayor, and in a lot of cities they don't have an election for mayor. A lot of cities
we
actually
have election for mayor, but our responsibilities, our vote is one vote each, so it's equal in vote, it's equal in the work that we do. The mayor just gets to sign certificates and things like that.
Got it.
Other than that, you know, we all have the same responsibilities and workload.
So how do you feel about this race that you're in? I mean, we're coming down to the wire. I mean, it's kind of crazy that as much as has been happening in 2020, all of a sudden you blink and it's like we're, you know, almost like 70 days away or 76 days away from election. So how do you feel about this race just personally?
You know, I think like this race is very important for our community. I think it's important because you know, our current mayor has been in office, I think, approximately 30 years or so before term limits were set in. Wow. And so we just, you know, you see the changeover in our community, and we that voice that it's not only going to take those proactive steps, but also look at technology, look at new businesses, and really build our city to where it needs to be to make it sustainable, not only economically, but environmentally. What are we doing as far as new technology sources? I actually initiated the Community Choice Energy Program in our city that a lot of Orange County cities are looking at joining. And, you know, it's a great program where we have local control of our energy sources and have seen other regions and other cities implement CCE and just the amount of revenues that they're bringing in, not only for the city, but the cost reduction for their residents and businesses.
Sure, because utility cost is a big issue as well.
It's huge. Yeah. And so, you know, that's something that we're looking at right now, but that's also something that our mayor is standing up against. And I don't think she understands it, but she's only looking at it as a cost. So the whole program costs about $10 million, but it's a loan to yourself. You're loaning that out, and then the revenues basically repay you back. And so it's important that other cities understand this and not get the wrong message. So again, it's all about doing what's right for the city to keep them moving forward. People have this expectation from us when it comes to the quality of service and programs. And if we're not able to find new ways of generating revenue and income in our city, those programs are going to start to diminish. And that takes away from the quality of life. And Absolutely. Then, of course, you know, if you don't have families that are happy here, they're going to move somewhere else. Businesses don't want to come in here. They want to go somewhere else.
So let's talk about that for a minute, the business side of it, because again, you guys in Irvine are a little bit of a different, like in terms of concentration of retail. Like you got the Irvine Spectrum. There's a lot of, you know, mini centers like Alton and Jeffrey. There's a lot of places that are retail oriented, right? And we are experiencing a major shift in retail. And then, you know, the Irvine Spectrum, Irvine Companies, they just had a big, huge expansion on that area. They built out a whole bunch of stuff next to the Target building. I look at that and I go, okay, those businesses have had a major kick in the stomach right now with COVID, right? And I know some of them are trying to be creative, and I think some of that creativity, to be honest, personally, from a design and just in terms of operations, I think some of that stuff will stick around. Okay, it'll still be around later. It's like necessity is the mother of invention. There will be some stuff that will stick around. But how are you dealing with that as a city? Because I can only imagine the calls you are getting relevant to reopening businesses and things of that nature. And of course, you are also saddled with the realities of what the state has also mandated. Right. But how are you dealing with that? What do you see there that may be residual effects of something like this that will shift the whole way that economic engine exists in the town?
I think one of the things that we're doing is trying to be as creative as possible in order to meet the state guidelines to help businesses reopen. Like as soon as dine-in was shut down, we got together with our developers and other community partners to figure out, okay, how can we rearrange certain areas for outdoor dining? Mm-hmm. What can we do to make sure that people had the opportunity of still going to those restaurants, keeping those restaurants running? Not only that, but when it came to our gyms, all right, what are we allowing, coming up quickly with ideas on how we're gonna allow gyms to keep operating. Okay, if you guys have a canopy outside and you bring some of your equipment outside, that's 6 feet of social distancing, you require the mask, you guys can keep functioning as a gym as well. Right. Blocking off some parking areas to put out tables and chairs and an environment that's appealing to people. And again, these shifts are necessary. You got to think fast and you got to think quickly in order to keep the economy moving. And I think that's one of the great things that we've been able to do is with our community partners come up with these ways. Like summertime has been a big concert time for us, outdoor concerts. Yep. We can't have concerts anymore, so we converted them into drive-in concerts. So basically taking a huge parking lot at the Great Park, building a stage, getting cars in there, letting people sit around their cars in their lawn chairs, enjoying the music, making sure there's enough separation, get some food trucks out there so they have something fun to do. The same thing we converted to our movie nights, we're converted into drive-in movie nights. Now we're working with the Irvine Barclay Theater to get some musicians from their end to come out and do concerts at the park.
Where are you doing this? Are you doing this at the Great Park? Where are you doing it?
Great Park.
Yeah. Yeah, I chuckle at and I'm enjoying it thoroughly because I've always been a drive-in movie fan, and I chuckle at how that old solution is now basically back in trend. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Like, I don't think it's going to go out of style, right? Because I think there was something to that. And now with the advance of Bluetooth technology and all of this stuff, it's really easy. You don't have to have those posts with the big speakers, right, to put on the window or whatever. And I think, what's next? You basically a drive-in movie theater and basically you call, Grubhub or DoorDash and they bring you the food to the car. I mean, there are solutions like this that I think not only will stick around, they may very well be the inception for new business models.
Right. And then, those are exciting things that we're doing right now that I hope will continue beyond this pandemic, because it brings people together and you're still providing an avenue for people to enjoy life.
So what are some of the challenges that you think, now not necessarily COVID related, but what are some of the challenges that you see? I mean, we talked about one like with the seniors and the reality of the fact that we are a demographic that's getting older in Orange County as a whole. More cities are impacted, maybe South County is impacted differently than maybe North County or whatever. But what are some of the challenges that you see that may be either specific to Irvine or that are more regional that are kind of on your radar?
I think one of the biggest thing is building out the Great Park. I mean, that is a huge undertaking. And I know a lot of people have grief over it about how long it took. And I tell them, I say, a park that size, comparable to say Central Park in New York, it took well over, I don't know how many, 20, 25 years to build. Yeah. And so when we're looking at this, whatever's happened in the past is in the past, but looking forward, we definitely want to make sure that the park not only is able to generate enough revenue to sustain itself, but at the same time have enough entities out there for the public. So, making sure that we have entertainment, that we have programs that are going to bring the public out there and not at a cost. So it's like something that they can do on their own, making sure there are enough trails out there. A botanical garden is something that our community has been asking for the longest time, that I hope that we can deliver soon. And we're working with like the Natural History Museum in New York to see if they don't want to come and build a satellite museum here at the Great Park.
Yeah.
So all of these things are going to be coming together. They're kind of halted right now, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to the time where we can get back on our program plan and make sure that we're getting the right type of programs and buildings in that great park that are going to benefit the entire community, not only in Irvine, but throughout Orange County.
Right, right. No, it's definitely a regional resource. And I mean, I could just even speaking to what's already there, you know, the OC FC club and right, you know, and great facility, great location. You know, there's a lot of opportunity there to do, and yes, of course, there's competing interest from residential to whatever, but you know, that will end up being a mix, and the community has to continue to just be engaged in what it wants. That's actually really a great example of where you guys are actually not just dealing and making these decisions for yourself, but regionally, right?
Right.
Are there, I want to just switch back to the business side for a minute. Are there, I know there's some cities, for example, that are doing, like the board of supervisors put out these grants that you can apply for like $1,000 to recoup some of the costs for PPEs. I know that Mayor of Costa Mesa is working on some sort of an award and recognition program for businesses. Again, all in an effort to help the businesses sustain themselves through this difficult, challenging period, but also to highlight the fact that they're doing the sort of the right thing, or basically, you know, being safe custodians, right? Are you guys doing any other of those programs in Irvine?
But then see, the issue is a lot of the money that is coming through in grant form is going directly to the county. So whether it's federal CARES Act funds or any other funds that might be coming through, the county gets them. So the county got a little over $500 million through the CARES Act fund that they were supposed to spend on COVID related items.
Right.
And we saw that, you know, not much was being used properly. We as a city started demanding that we get some of that funding so we could do the programs that were necessary in our city. And at one point, the county did disperse out grants to individual cities for business loan, business grants. So in our city, we actually converted that into, I believe it was $10,000 grants that we sent out to businesses with 25 employees or less. Were able to apply. We definitely divided it and made sure it was, I think, $5 million that we were granted. We divided that up to make sure that we had enough for our retail and restaurants, as well as other businesses as well, because we definitely wanted the retail to be able to get back on its feet. And so, yeah, that went out, and that was a wonderful program. But was it enough? Enough. I think we, when it comes to grants towards businesses. Now, through the CARES funds from the state, we were getting about $3 million into our city, and $2 million of that I actually recommended that we convert grants to help with rent relief. So we had about 1,800 something that applied for those grants. There were $1,000 grants in order to help them pay some of their rent off, and that came through. And so, you know, we're trying to do everything we can, but our goal is to make sure that the state and the federal government, that unless they're providing grants directly to the cities, we're not able to do much. So we're basically, our hands are tied, asking for the county to disperse that money directly to us.
How's it been, Farrah, with the business community as far as kind of coming together to basically do that? Because what you point out is a reality of life. In many cases, you know, we have to sort of count on our own and come up with ways to basically shore each other up. So how's it been? Because you guys have a, you know, kind of like more than an average, most communities have not as many business engines, like big power players that are basically based out of Irvine.
Well, we have the Greater Irvine Chamber of Commerce that has been
great organization.
Help. Yeah. And not only them, but as the same with the Orange County Business Development Center. They're located, they have a branch out here in Irvine. Right. They've been wonderful providing information, making sure they understood how to apply for grants, and providing them with guidance. I actually did a town hall early on with the chamber and the business development office in just kind of going through what was available for all businesses and how to buy, where to get resources, and what else was out there or coming forward. And so I think those kind of things have been great for us. Having that partner there that is looking out for the business community and providing updates on a regular basis has been wonderful.
How long, that's phenomenal. The reason why I'm asking these questions is because other people that are listening to this, you know, we're all kind of hustling around trying to get stuff done. So there's a certain amount of sharing best practices rather than reinventing the wheel. So I appreciate you, you know, sharing that with us. You mentioned something a little while ago about relevant to the term of the current mayor, and you said that term limits. Now, when did you guys enact term limits? Is that a recent thing?
If I'm correct, I think it was 2014.
Okay.
That's when they were enacted. And basically, any terms prior to that was not included.
So what are the current term limits?
I believe it's 2 terms for council member and 2 terms for mayor.
Okay. And so that's interesting. All right. Well, I will tell you something. I've had you on the show before a number of times, and I can tell that your tenure on city council has done nothing other than give you more seasoning in doing the job, because the impassioned approach is still there, but what I'm hearing from you is a lot more specific, succinct, you know, and it sounds to me like, you know, you just said you've been there for a little bit more than 2 years, but it sounds to me like you really maximize the time that you've been there to build those bridges and connections to different parts of the community, because it is very ambitious. I mean, the stuff that's happening, not ambitious in a bad way, it is all stuff that needs to happen, but somebody has to take a leadership role in making it happen. And I think that if there's anything that is a sad reflection maybe on our political system, regardless whether it's local or national, is that we seem to have a real abdication of leadership. And it's a hesitation of leadership. It's sometimes, you know, we eventually get to do what we were supposed to do from the beginning that was pretty clear that we should have done, but there was a dragging of feet and a hesitation. And unfortunately, when it comes to things like a COVID or things like a business that's suffering, right, that needs not so much financial relief, but they need leadership relief. They need somebody to really champion their cause. When that doesn't happen, that dragging of feet, that resistance of leadership, to stick your neck out, to stand up and say, okay, I will take this on. People die, businesses die, and in many cases, you know, people dying, we can't do anything. That's an ultimate result. You can't reverse that. In many cases, even businesses, it's fatal. And that's unfortunate, because we're talking about really the core of what makes our communities. These are mom and pops, you know, businesses that are not necessarily just 2 people, that may have other families that, you know, other families that are employees that basically depend on, and it just trickles and dominoes.
Yeah, and that's something that we need to avoid. I mean, you know, like when the pandemic first hit, within the first month, I reached out to the mayor and I said, hey, what are we doing to bring our communities together? And I actually initiated a conversation between not only our developers, but the chamber, and then our educational, you know, communities and our healthcare providers, and brought them and said, okay, where are you guys at right now? What are you working on? How can we help each other walk through this? And I think that's what's needed you know, you want to bring people up to the table to have these conversations.
Somebody has to take a leadership role. Somebody has to
do that.
Not worry about how that looks.
Someone will tell me what the right way to move forward. You just can't do that right now.
No, you can't. And you can't also, you know, wait to see how the dust settles. Right. There are moments that are defining moments in people's, whether it's their political careers or their professional careers or their just personal growth. Okay, there are moments that are pivotal, milestone moments where you are basically asked to step up, not just mask up, but step up. Okay, and those are really the moments that define you. And if somebody's paying attention, those are the moments that define you in other people's minds. So we are community-wise, experiencing moments like this almost on a daily basis. And those challenges are coming. And the question is whether you rise and meet the challenge and do what is needed, or you basically cower and stand and wait for the more politically opportune moment, or the least risk moment. Okay, this is not the time to do that, because that also speaks volumes. Like I saw an ad the other day that says, you know, wearing a mask says stuff about you. Not wearing a mask says stuff about you. Like either way, you're projecting something, right? I really appreciate you taking the time. I think
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. It really is, and I think it is great. I now understand completely why your logo looks like the way it is for this campaign, because you are a person that has been initiating conversations, available for conversations, reachable from way before you even ran, in what you were doing as a community member or a committee member in the city, and continue to do that. So it makes perfect sense to me now. So I was confused at the beginning. Now I understand. And I wish you luck, my friend. I really do. It's just around the corner. So I know there's a lot of hard work still ahead, and a lot of meeting people, a lot of questions and so forth. So just keep doing the good work, keep doing what you're doing. And I wish you luck.
Thanks so much, Raad. It was wonderful being on the show.
Likewise. Anytime, you're welcome. Okay, come back. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.